What's up, guys? M. Jones back in the house again for my May 15th Blu-ray update. I'm going to talk about some movies that I've purchased in the last couple weeks. Movies from the 80s up until now. So let's get to it. First movie I got, back from 1983, 48 Hours, with Eddie Murphy here and Nick Nolte. Great cop, bad guy kind of movie. It's about a cop, Nick Nolte. He was Officer Cates, and he was looking for a cop killer. I think that killed his partner, and some other cops in his precinct. And the bad guy was James Remar, which a lot of people don't know who he is until you see his face. He's one of those character actors, and I really liked him in a lot of other movies. You have to check him out. Very good actor. But he was real young in this movie, and he was the main bad guy. And a great bad guy, too. He was vicious. And anyway, Eddie Murphy is a bad guy. He plays Reggie. And he is released from jail as long as he helps Cates, Nick Nolte, find the killer who killed the cops, which was James Remar. And you know, Eddie Murphy knows James Remar's character in the movie, and they pretty much plot to find a way to get him. But just a really fun movie. Definitely for the early '80s, this movie was really cool. This movie now, you know, not bad. It doesn't really hold the test of time, but it is a very good movie if you can just imagine the kind of graphics this displayed on theaters in like the early '80s. Really enjoyed this movie. Never saw any of the sequels. So only saw this one, but really liked it. Great movie. Next movie, I remember I snuck into the theater as a kid because it was rated R. I think it came out when I was like 11 years old. I think like 1996 maybe this movie came out. But I absolutely love this movie. This is when Adam Sandler, in my opinion, was actually funny and not corny like he is now. And when Damon Wayans was awesome, but Bulletproof. You know, a very funny movie. Adam Sandler in the beginning was supposed to be a bad guy, kind of got in the middle, kind of a middleman kind of a thing. And Damon Wayans is trying to get him. And Adam Sandler accidentally shoots him in the head. You know, amazingly, miraculously, Damon Wayans doesn't die. And he plots out to try to find him. Well, he gets them, but they have to like go through like a whole bunch of different states to try to. I think Damon Wayans wants to take him to jail, or he tries to transfer him, and something happens, and they all have to become like buddies, sort of. And Damon Wayans is kind of a hard ass throughout the whole movie, but Adam Sandler is, you know, he's really funny, and he plays Moses, and Damon Wayans' character's name's Keats. And they just seem to find themselves like needing each other, even though they kind of hate each other. And you know, it's just a really good movie. It's actually very funny. It's one of those movies that was, in my opinion, underrated because I actually thought it was very funny, but also a good movie, not just funny. And you know, the classic part when they get pulled over in this real nice red convertible, and you know, Adam Sandler pretends like he's mentally handicapped and he's like, Disneyland, go to Disneyland. It's just I mean, it's kind of rude, but it was funny. You know, you just got to put all that political correctness aside for a second. But it was a very funny part in the movie. And, you know, it is a really good movie. So, check it out. I was really excited to buy that on Blu-ray. Next movie, more of a serious movie. I was really excited to find this on Blu-ray. I remember I saw it when I was, I think I was like 9 or 10. And I remember I didn't really understand a lot of it. And the only reason why I wanted to see this so bad was because the little boy's same first name as mine. So if you see the movie, you'll find out what my first name is. But I was really excited to check this movie out. It's called The Client with Brad Renfro, who's the little boy, Susan Sarandon, and Tommy Lee Jones. You know, it was just a fantastic movie. I think it was a Joel Schumacher film. Really good director. This movie came out, I think, like 94. And I remember it was just such a crazy movie how these two young boys, Brad Renfro and his little brother, they see this murder or the suicide. And they are witnesses to this. And they just kind of lie a little bit in the beginning. Then they start coming out with the truth of stuff. And, you know, and Tommy Lee Jones is an attorney and Susan Sarandon's attorney. And Susan Sarandon protects the boys from, you know, because they're minors. They're not, you know, they, I forget what happens like that, but they don't have to, they have to have their parents there to make sure that they can testify, whatever. And it's just a really good movie about an attorney who really cares about these little boys and wants to protect them, who is Susan Sarandon. And Tommy Lee Jones is kind of a ignorant prick, and he's very very arrogant and just wants it his way and always wants to win. Doesn't care what the circumstances are as an attorney. But just a really good movie. It's pretty suspenseful too. For being in a courthouse, it's suspenseful. And most movies that are in courthouses aren't always suspenseful, but this was. I really enjoyed this movie. And and that's another thing. Brad Renfro, I saw on Wikipedia was committed suicide or died of an overdose. I think died of an accidental overdose. And I didn't even know that. It's crazy. I always liked him as an actor, and he was just like kind of a Jonathan Brandis. One of those young actors who was in movies. Everyone really liked him. Brad Renfro was in The Cure with Joe Mazzella from The River Wild, another great movie. And he just kind of didn't make it anymore in Hollywood as like an 18 to 23-year-old age range, where you're just not getting the roles anymore. And he turned to drugs. And unfortunately his life was taken. So it's got to be brutal to be a young child actor and no longer get the roles. For example, like Haley Joel Osment from The Sixth Sense. You never see him anymore. So I always wonder, how do these kids take that? Do they take it as a failure, like I'm no good anymore? I mean, as a kid I was better as an adult. It's got to be really tough for these younger actors and actresses. But great movie. Check it out. Oh. Next movie. Really excited to buy this on Blu-ray. I'm pretty sure this has been available on Blu-ray for a while. I just didn't purchase it. It was just one of those things. I just didn't get it. Really excited to have this though. I still love the character Cameron Poe, but Con Air. Nicolas Cage was so good in this movie. So believable as like a Southern boy. He's not Southern at all in real life. He was so believable in this movie as Cameron Poe, the character. And just Cyrus the Virus, John Malkovich, man, he was badass. I was scared by him. He had that bald head and just that very just sociopath, just dark eyes, just a very scary kind of guy who didn't give a shit at all. He didn't care about what life he took or what he did. And I always thought John Cusack was a good actor, and he gets a lot of shit. I don't really know why. You don't really see him in too much anymore. That 1492 or whatever movie that was about that hotel room, that movie sucked, and that was like his last big movie that he's been in. But like in the 90s, he was good. He was really good. Like Gross Point Blank, High Fidelity, and of course Con Air. But I liked his role too. But just a really good movie about a guy trying to get home to his wife and his daughter from being in prison, that he was wrongfully accused, which is proof. You saw it in the movie. I mean, he was self-defending his wife, and it's just one of those movies where it's just a fun ride. Like the acting isn't the best, but the action's really good. And it kept you on your seat. You're wondering how it's going to happen. You always, you kind of thought in this movie the good guy's going to win in the end. I'm not going to tell you if he does or not if you haven't seen it, but it's just really good. Cameron Poe's famous line, "Put the bunny back in the box." Like that was cool. And what happened there. And young Dave Chappelle's in this. That was really cool to see that. And also, I really like seeing Bubba from Forrest Gump. He was in this. He was the guy that needed the insulin shots. He was diabetic, and it was Nicolas Cage's character's buddy. And that was a really cool part too. I liked his part in the movie too. And just a really good movie. Next movie, I never saw this as a kid. I always saw it like on the pay-per-view back in like the early 90s, like 1993. And I always wondered what this was about. And the reason I wanted to see it so bad is because it had the guy who is, what's his name? I forget. Kevin Pollak, who he was in The Usual Suspects, and he was Jacob in Grumpy Old Men. I saw him on the cover of this. I remember at a movie theater. I was like, oh, I remember that was Jacob from Grumpy Old Men. I want to see it. But it was Indian Summer. It's actually a really good movie. It came out like 1993. It was with Diane Lane, a younger Diane Lane, and I've always had a crush on her. I always thought she was a very pretty girl, and she was really good in this. And Elizabeth Perkins is in this, and she was really good. Alan Arkin, who is like kind of the camp counselor back in the day when they were all kids. He has to sell this camp, and so he invites all pretty much his favorites. And all these groups of people that you see on this canoe are like his favorites. And they all have kind of a love triangle, and they all have certain friendships and somewhat of begrudgment and kind of just anger towards each other. But they do love each other. It's a love-hate thing. And it's just a great movie about them being able to be kids again and talk out their differences and try to find a way to get this camp back to where it was and try to be able to afford it for Alan Arkin's character so he could live there and be a counselor. But it's a really good movie. It's a fun movie. It's a very simple movie. It's nothing you have to, have a notebook and write notes on, like Inception, for example. But it was just a really fun movie to watch, and it's it's good for families, and really liked it. The next movie I got it from a recommendation from a coworker. She knows that I coach high school wrestling, and she thought I might like this movie to watch just because it has wrestling in it. But it was so bad. It was so inaccurate with wrestling. Some of the choreography for the wrestling moves were pretty good, but just all the other little things about it were just so off and just so terrible. But Legendary with WWE's John Cena and Danny Glover's in this movie, and I think Patricia Clarkson, is that her name? Patricia Clarkson, she's in this too, and she's the mother of the young boy. And the young boy is right here, if you can see that, and he wants to try out wrestling for his last year of high school, which is a good thing. I think it's great to try wrestling. It's one of the best sports in the world, if not the best. And as a coach, I try to keep my opinions to myself and just try to enjoy the movie. But it was just so off. Like there was a part where the kid weighs in and he had like a shirt on. You don't wear a shirt when you weigh in. And there's parts where he's wrestling and his like little girlfriend's like hanging there by the bench, and as soon as he's done wrestling, he goes there and gives her like a big hug and kiss, and everyone's clapping. It was just like, God, it was so dramatic in Hollywood. I hated it. And it just makes any real wrestler or wrestling coach just miserable watching it. I just thought it was so bad. And John Cena, it's like, dude, just stop acting. You're not the next Rock that can transfer from wrestling to acting. Like, you're just terrible. You're boring. And I wouldn't tell him that to his face, but I think he's boring. But I was not into this. I just thought it was really bad. And I thought Patricia Clarkson was just such a bitch the whole movie. I know that's her role, but she was just annoying. She was overly annoying in this movie. And I'm not a big fan of her as an actress, but I hated her role in this. She was just the nagging mom that was always negative and like, oh, no, don't wrestle. It's going to ruin your life. Oh, okay. It doesn't teach you anything, huh? Well, I just did not like this movie at all. I'm just kind of mad I got it, but whatever. Next movie I got, I think it was 1999, 2000 maybe 2001, I forget. But Me, Myself, and Irene, just when I first saw this movie, I didn't really understand what I was laughing at. I didn't really get the little things, especially the whole night he had with Renee Zellweger, and he pissed up into the wall, and why all that happened. I just didn't understand that. I see it now. I see this movie now, and I crack up. Like, it's absolutely hysterical to me. I really appreciate this movie now for its comedy, because I understand, what they're trying to get across with the Farrelly brothers as directors. But I really love this movie. A lot of people didn't really like this movie with him. I thought it was really genius how he transferred from Charlie to Hank and had these alter egos and multiple personality. And it's a really funny movie. And I really love that his sons are 3 black kids, that his wife at the time slept with the limo driver who was black and had these kids, and the wife just left the kids with him. So he has no relation to these kids whatsoever, really. But they treat him like their dad, and they're so funny. They kiss him on the cheek as grown adults, and they're like, Daddy, and stuff like that. It's so funny. And they swear all the time. I love that part. Anthony Anderson was one of the sons, and the one kid from Old School, the real heavyset black kid from Old School, they were so funny in this movie, and they just loved him. But, it's a movie that I really appreciate now as an adult to understand all the jokes. Because when I saw it in the theater, I was kind of laughing just to laugh. You know what I mean? I didn't really know what I was laughing at. So I was just kind of like, okay. But great movie to have on Blu-ray. The transfer's really good. I just watched it the other night. And, check it out. Great movie, great comedy. Pretty good plot, too. Next movie I saw it in theaters. I think 2000, early 2000s, and I laughed my ass off. I thought it was so funny. And I'm not sure if I maybe grew up finally and matured, but I hated this movie now. I just watched it last week, but Scary Movie 2, I still think Scary Movie 1 is really good. And I thought when I saw this in the theaters, this was really funny. I watched it again. I hated every second of it. The very beginning with the whole James Woods as the priest or whatever, I thought that was terrible. It was so hard to watch with the whole Exorcist kind of homage, and I hated this movie. I think it was just so bad, you know. And Tori Spelling, oh, she's annoying. She's so annoying, and I could not stand this movie. And I'm just kind of pissed I got it, to be honest with you, because I thought I really would like it again to see it, but no. The Wayans brothers were probably the best thing in it. They were pretty funny, but just a horrible movie. Oh, next movie, another movie I wasn't real big on. I always heard this was good. It had the Brat Pack, you know, the Rob Lowe's, the Judd Nelsons, you know, Demi Moore, what's her face, Ali Sheedy, you know, Andrew McCarthy from Weekend at Bernie's. St. Elmo's Fire. You know, I thought I would really like this movie. I didn't like it at all. You know, it's a movie that you can only really watch like within 2 years of it being out and appreciate all the references. I didn't really understand a lot of the stuff in this movie. With stuff they were talking about, you know, politics-wise and what's popular and all that kind of stuff. But this movie came out early in the mid-'80s, I think. And I just didn't like it. And I just thought it was a bunch of kids that graduated college that just did not grow up at all. And they had no idea what to do. They had no idea where to go. You know, what should I do with my life? I just kind of want to be, you know, an ignorant mid-20s kid and just do nothing but just drink and hang out. And not really have responsibility. Which is fine, but it's going to get to you after a while. And I just hated it. I thought Rob Lowe's character was such a jerk-off. I hated his character. I thought he was annoying to me. You know, I think the funny thing is, I think the best character in this movie was, you know, like Demi Moore was awesome in this movie. She was good. She was believable. And I also like Andy McDowell, who was Emilio Estevez's crush. She was a doctor in this movie, and she was young looking, and she looked good in her 20s. And I liked her in it, and I liked Demi Moore. But everyone else, man, I was annoyed with them. Maybe Andrew McCarthy was pretty good, but this movie, you know, a solid C plus, if anything. But wasn't into this one. But I had to see it. All right, I have about 3 more movies to talk about. This movie, I saw it back in like 2007, 2008 with a couple friends, and I remember I wanted to see this so bad because it was inspired by true events, and I like horror movies, and I like the whole realistic horror movies, things that could really happen. But The Strangers, with Scott Speedman and Liv Tyler, and it's just, oh my gosh, it's one of those movies where this could happen. This movie could definitely happen. It's kind of it's a couple that come home from a wedding reception, and they're really just kind of fighting, and they're not really sure if they want to stay together. Well, they get a knock on the door, and there's these 3 local people that want to get them and harass them, and you know, and at most maybe kill them. And it's just so crazy. And the guy right here, I forget his name, but he was the really weird kid from American Beauty that would film Thor Birch through the window. And I forget his name. He was also in that movie, I think P2, I think it was called, where he harassed this woman in a parking garage. I can't remember his name right now. I'm sorry, but he was like he was the main bad guy with the white mask on. And the part where Liv Tyler's smoking a cigarette and the camera's to her right, getting like just her profile, and he just like walks in and just stands there and looks at her and then walks away. Holy shit. I still remember seeing that in the preview. I was like, oh. And I remember seeing it in the theater. I was like, oh. I was like, that'd be so scary to have this bad guy just look at you and just decide whether he wants to kill you or not. He just like walks away like, no, I'll get her later. Like that's just so cool. You know, the camera action was awesome, which, you know, the cinematography. Just really loved that. I really thought that was such a cool part in the movie. You know, the guy who plays Dennis in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, he was one of the people that were in this movie for a short bit. And I liked his role. I thought he was really good. But just a great movie, very creepy. If something like this would happen in real life, oh my God, SOL. That'd be horrible. That'd be so terrible. But you know, a great movie, solid B plus, if not A minus maybe. 1996, classic movie. Tom Hanks, That Thing You Do. You know, I mean, just there's really nothing wrong with this movie. It's one of those movies where I think it's almost perfect, you know, and shockingly enough, because Tom Hanks is in it. You know, Tom Hanks, everything he does, he's great. Really love Tom Hanks, except for the Da Vinci Code. I thought that was terrible, and Cloud Atlas, horrible. But everything Tom Hanks is in, he's always really good. Really happy to get this movie. I remember I got the cassette single of The Wonders, That Thing You Do, because I love the song so much. And the movie was very accurate. The one thing I will say is though is I remember I watched this movie. My dad told me that a few parts that were a little bit off was Kevin Pollak, who I've talked about from Indian Summer and Grumpy Old Man. He was one of the nightclub managers, and the way he would talk is not how they would talk back in like the 50s, 60s, mid 60s. And he said his dialogue wasn't very accurate to what they would say. He kept saying freaking a lot, like, play some freaking music. Well, like, they didn't really talk. He said they didn't really talk that way. It just didn't seem right. And I can't really attest to that because I wasn't born then. But, a really good movie. Liv Tyler, she's okay. She gets on my nerves a little bit. She always has that dumb face, always that dumb look on her face. I'm just kind of whatever with that. But just a really good movie. Tom Everett Scott, wherever the hell you went, you were in Dead Man on Campus, and you were obviously the drummer here, Shades. And you were really good, man. I don't know where you're at in movies anymore. I don't know if you're on a TV show or not, but dude, try to start acting again. I thought you were good in this. But great movie. Really enjoyed this movie. About young band, small town. And the last movie, and I think it was 1992's Best Picture, Unforgiven, with Morgan Freeman, the man Clint Eastwood, and Gina Hackman. Richard Harris is in this, the late Richard Harris, who's in the early Harry Potters. Just a really good, just country western cowboy movie, and it just shows a guy who used to be a bad guy, and he's trying to change his life with kids and do the right thing. Well, he finds out some things that's happened in the town where he wants to go in Wyoming, and he finds out that the local sheriff isn't the nicest guy in the world, and all these things happen. You got to see it if you haven't seen it. It's a classic. It's even it's made in 1992, but it feels like it's kind of current in a way. I don't know what it is. It's just everything that happened. I could see that it would stood the test of time, big time. Just a great movie, and obviously it won Best Picture for a reason. It was just a phenomenal movie, and it's another movie that Clint Eastwood produced and directed. And he seems to do that a lot since like the mid '90s till about now. And everything he does, I like. He's one of those guys where he just does one take of a scene and that's it. He doesn't do like multiple takes, and that's ballsy. And it's usually really good movies. So it just shows you how good the actors are that he chooses in for his movies. But really enjoyed this movie, and I just think Clint Eastwood's such a badass, and just the way he handles things, the whole movie, and what he does in the end, you got to see just badass. But anyway, that's it for my my Blu-ray update for May 15th. I will have another one up within about a week, maybe even less. But until then, you take it easy. Okay, bye.